It's all about Gloria's beautiful dreams versus her harsh reality in tonight's episode of David Makes Man. And we have special guests Travis Coles and Isaiah Johnson. Don't miss it.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everybody. Happy Hump Day. It is your favorite after show on AfterBuzz TV, the David Makes Man after show. I am your host, Tsahai Wilson, and we have a action-packed, fun-filled episode for you tonight. But first, let me introduce you to my panelists. Hello, everybody.
Yo, what's good?
Josh. Josh is our resident stylist who's going to be breaking down the looks of each episode. He also does some of our special segments. He is a dad. He's a preacher's son, and he just gives us the male perspective that we need.
PK's in the house.
Also, we have Zakiyyah. Hi, Zakiyyah.
Hi, guys.
Welcome. Zakiyyah is a publicist, a content creator. She does our news and gossip, our bookings, and everything else here. Hi, Zakiyyah.
Hello.
Welcome. And then, last but not least, we have two special guests this evening. We have Isaiah. You may know him as a tough gangster ghost Sky on the show. But this Howard and NYU grad also played Hamilton and played George Washington in Hamilton. Yes. So please welcome Isaiah Johnson.
Yeah.
And next to Isaiah, we have Travis. You may have seen him on Superstore, Living Biblically, or Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but he's burning up the screen as the mother of the Ville, Miss Mix Elijah. Welcome, Travis Cole.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Oh, you know what? We're here. I'm excited.
Thank you. We are excited too. It's going to be fun. So tonight we'll give you some news and gossip. We'll give you some predictions, but we'll also give you insights into the episode that you may not have because we have our special guests. Yes.
Ooh.
So first and foremost, this was all about Gloria, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Guys, tell me what you thought about tonight's episode. I'll start with you, Josh.
Well, tonight I like to see the background of Gloria. It was actually nice to have them focus on her. So now we're starting to understand almost where she came from as far as her drug addiction, and now she's moving forward trying to get past it. I like that.
Zakiyyah, what you think? Excuse me.
I felt like this episode, we took a glimpse in what could possibly get really, really ugly for Gloria. So it was like the good, like we saw her personality, and then we saw the bad, which was her job, and now we're seeing maybe some ugly. I don't know, but I think so.
Okay.
Which I'm scared for.
Yes, I'm nervous as well. But what I loved about this episode, I was raised by a single mom, and I think this whole episode was like an homage to single mothers and understanding their plight and their struggle.
Yes.
I feel like every episode of the show has moments of joy, moments of fear, and moments of sadness. And we saw Gloria go through all of those. This is really close to my heart because of being raised by a single mom. So what did you gentlemen think of the episode this evening?
You know, it is so multi-layered in that it is an homage to single mothers, you know, and we had a lot of mothers who were on set with us, and they're just incredible women. Not all of them were single mothers, but some of them are.
Yeah.
And it is just important to show that aspect of the culture, you know? But what I really loved about the episode is that what we also saw was Gloria's, how she deals with her trauma,
right?
You know, in the same way that David does, in that, what do you do with your imagination? Like, where do you go so that you can survive? And that's what David does.
Yeah.
And so we see that it's also happening in other places.
Yeah.
And this is what happens realistically when you are experiencing trauma. And if you are Black in this country,
there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of trauma. And Travis, while we're speaking with you, I just want to give the people a little bit of background about yourself. So you went to UNC School of Arts?
I did. I went to UNC School of the Arts. I'm from an Air Force family, so I traveled all over. I had that experience, which was really great. And I came out here and I was just like, I'm never going to be on anybody's television.
Wow.
And I just I stopped. I didn't even allow myself the opportunity to try. And it wasn't until I was resisting. And then finally I was like, okay, it's like the only thing that I feel like I need to be doing. And then as soon as I started just putting one foot in front of the other, doors started opening. And it's just funny how much like that still happens. I'm like, that's the thing I'm really resisting. I don't want to do it. And it's like, no, you should.
They say, yeah, the thing that you want to do the least, that's the thing you should definitely do.
Talk about it.
See, no. So what you're not going to do is that.
They say you got to push yourself. But
Yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah. Right.
Now you do have a theater background as well. You've done some theater as well.
Theater, I have done theater. I also have a film and television background and a journalism background
And a comedic background as well.
Comedy background.
You're doing all the things.
You know what? You can't stop me.
No, you can't. You are unstoppable.
No, I'm just I think that's a part of being in the Air Force too. Like just being able to move from different thing and like fit in to places in a way that, oh, sorry, I just touched Isaiah.
Please do.
He's touchable. Very touchable.
But no, I was lucky in that I had the opportunities in the places that I lived to, work for CNN. I was a part of the Washington Association of Black Journalists.
Okay, WABJ.
WABJ.
Okay.
When I was in the 9th grade, and like I got to do entertainment, and like one of my friends wanted to be an anchor, and like now he is in DC, and being able to do theater and see theater and go to these visual performing arts schools that were Black owned. I mean, DC
amazing.
and Maryland, like Prince George's County.
The DMV area, shout out.
Yes, shout out.
Yeah.
My stomping ground.
Yes.
My
But
stomping
it's a
ground.
different kind of culture because it's all Black.
Very much
It's
so,
Black
very
owned,
much so.
it's and so there's just opportunities, and there's all different kinds of struggle.
And it sounds like similar to David, you've had to kind of be adaptable in growing up. You mentioned the Air Force, and Isaiah, you also come from an Air Force family as well, correct?
Yes.
So tell the audience where you're from and a little bit about your background. I know you went to NYU. You're a singer and an actor. You also went to Howard.
Yes.
Howard.
Some people say that's the real HU,
It
right?
is. All people should claim it.
But one thing I found out in our research is that you lived in Anchorage, Alaska?
Yeah, for a long time. I moved to Alaska in 1992 and graduated high school there and came back to DC from there. And so, like Travis, I also grew up in a military family. Both my parents served. My father didn't serve the whole term. My mother wanted to make a career out of it. She retired as an officer.
That's awesome.
And that put me in a unique position to be able to, as Travis said, float between worlds.
Right.
And quickly get adjusted to worlds.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely laid the groundwork to become an actor, because honestly, you start acting at such an early age without even realizing it.
Love that. It sounds like you guys had a lot in common. Did you spend a lot of time together on set?
Not as much as I wanted to.
No, it was so great.
It was
well,
like
I can't say
in
anything.
the makeup room. We was in the makeup room.
Yes. He just informed me that I would be sleeping, and he was taking video.
Oh, I got the footage. I will not post it, but
Let
I
me
got the
tell you.
footage.
I mean, we should though. Like
That brother-
Carol
Blackmail.
Rashid was literally. She was incredible. She is like known. She also does Greenleaf. It would take hours to do the makeup.
Right.
And like I would just go in there, and I apparently would sit in that chair. I thought I was sneaking.
Sneak nap?
No.
I thought I was sleeping, and apparently not. I was like, how did I keep my head up? And
Honestly, our relationship started by me keeping him awake by gabbing my mouth. I would just talk and keep him awake.
Hilarious.
Like, so I would try to make him laugh for an hour.
Well, now you get to spend quality time here.
Yeah.
And we also... And our boy Lucian
Yes.
is in the live chat. Josh is in the
Yes.
live chat.
Yeah, what's up, Lucian?
Uncle Lou.
Yeah,
Yes.
we see you out there, and we I do want to shout out that someone spoke about J-Lo O'Brien spoke about who directed these episodes, and Lucian points out that it's Kill Adrian Scott.
Yes.
Kill Adrian Scott.
Yeah.
NYU.
Okay.
NYU.
Yeah. So
he's
go ahead.
he's great. He's also he has, I don't know if he did this episode, he did the one before, and he's doing the other one. So they do 3 at a time.
Okay,
Nice.
Except
Now-
for the pilot director,
Got
Michael
it.
Williams.
Okay.
Yes. I follow
Yeah.
him on Instagram. He was in London recently, I know.
Yes. He's so London. They're all so London. I love them.
So with this episode, as we said, we focus on Gloria, and we'll
Yeah.
start with Gloria, the working woman, because that's where we see her at work. She's a waitress. She's in this restaurant setting, and she thinks she's has applied for an assistant manager position, but she ends up getting fired after her boss makes a pass at her.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
I mean, and talk about like the ridiculousness of it all. Like she was the only one there. I'm like, who is that job going to?
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Also, we note that this episode was written by our showrunner, Dee Harrison. Like she is incredible. Just in general, but I just love her writing and having that experience, it be from that perspective,
Yes.
and her, I just think is even more powerful. The service industry is I just came from that industry.
Okay.
And you have to respect it.
I was gonna
Yes.
say, I wrote a note. I said it's not easy being a waitress. I know. I was a waitress in Miami, Florida, at the Lowe's Hotel. Now you.
Whoa.
Yes.
Lowe's?
Yes. But just a short story. I volunteered for the ABFF, American Black Film Festival, and that's where I saw Black directors, Black producers creating films, and I was like, I want to do this, and that's how I got my start.
Nice.
That is
Nice.
incredible.
Full circle moment.
My mother worked as a waitress or a server. It's a server in DC at this IHOP, and she told me about the last day that she worked, and it was when someone touched her inappropriately, and she got fired because she told them that they couldn't do that. I mean, she didn't just say, "Oh, you can't do that."
Right.
I mean, it
She was
my
like
mom.
Gloria.
Yeah, she's like, don't put your, but got fired.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
That's
like our girl
horrible.
Gloria. Speaking of that, as you watched her in her workspace, did y'all feel like Gloria was like being defiant in her job, or was she just standing up for herself? You know, like when the boss would say something to her and she kind of respond back. Do you think, some people be like, oh, you being sassy, or was she just kind of like laying down the rules?
She is a black woman. I
Right.
mean, if you say anything, like you are defiant.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's the case. I truly also, I'm like, she was working by herself. Someone was late. This manager has been making passes at her.
Right.
And that is just acceptable. So absolutely not. She was not being defiant. She did everything that she was supposed to do to the T, picking up shifts because she is just trying to make it for the family. And also, most notably, struggling with addiction. That is a
That's right.
serious struggle. You
Right.
know? Like, it is hard because that's another thing that, we all kind of like bleed in this own way. Like, how do you deal with your pain?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think it was Ayanla that was saying, like, you just have a lot of people who are either drinking themselves, eating themselves, whatever you're doing to numb whatever is happening inside of you.
Yeah.
It's survival.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's survival. And so the fact that she is going through that first and foremost, because I want to just say that is a mental disorder.
Yes.
Being someone this is known, but I I'm in recovery.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like that kind of
So you can
watching
identify
that,
with
I
her.
identify with that, but
Okay.
mostly I identify with numbing and using whatever it is that you have to do to survive.
Right.
Because it's like the organism feels like it's going to perish.
Right, because you have to
If-
work. The bills have to get paid. You have to
Exactly.
keep pushing forward.
So watching this was really hard. And I've seen it and I've read it, but watching this again, because first of all, the writing, the directing, but like Alana Arenas, like, oh,
Beautiful.
my
Love her so
Slay.
much.
goodness.
Slay.
Right.
My goodness, so many things that she just did.
I'm glad we got the opportunity to see so much of her. What did you guys feel like when you saw Gloria in her workplace?
Well, just her in her workplace, especially, I felt as if, like you were saying, just going to a predominantly white school myself, anything I said was you have an attitude,
sassy.
you're being sassy.
Oh, wow.
And I also felt like it was intimidation. Like, he was intimidated by her intelligence. Like, he said, why are you buying books? Don't buy books. As if you're supposed to tell me how I'm supposed to spend my check.
Right.
That's one. And then also, speaking of addiction, my parents were both recovering addicts before they had me. So they met actually in the NA. So when I was younger, I used to go to the little NA meetings. They're like, once you're an addict, you're always an addict. Does God grant me the serenity? Like, like we call it NA kids. Like, I was literally in the basement. It was like, we called one of the houses the last house on the block. And like they had parties. And
That's amazing.
So, but I seen, and I never saw my parents struggle, but I understand, like, again, once you're an addict, you're always an addict. I'm not going to drink alcohol. I'm not going to smoke any weed, like anything that will cause me to go back into that addiction. And it just seeing her, like, in this episode really helped me understand my parents even more, because obviously as you're a child, you don't look at them like that. But now seeing the temptation, and even her boss tempting her with drugs, basically, or tempting her to in order to advance, like, I know
using
your
that to
history.
his advantage.
Exactly. I know your history, so in order for you to prevail, this is what you have to do.
Now, that leads me to think, you mentioned how Black women are perceived in certain situations. And Josh and Isaiah, you both are dads. You have a little girl?
Two,
Boy
and a girl.
A boy and a girl. So how has working on this show affected the way you're raising your daughter and your children?
That's a wonderful question. I think I want to harken back. I haven't seen this episode yet, but I remember reading it in the script. And because of what we're talking about now, I want to harken back to the episode before when Gloria said, it might have been, anyway, the kitchen scene when she said, "You just like me." I think one of the things that her and David have in common is that they both still have their voice. And I don't know if everybody caught it, but in the scene, in the episode before, when Gloria came to the house of the person who impregnated her, her professor, she's a young girl.
Right.
He's a grown-ass man.
Right.
Pardon my...
No,
That's all right.
That's
And
It's true.
I have feelings. And so, but what I want people to realize in that episode, especially if you get the opportunity to watch it again, is that even in that moment, she had her voice.
Yes.
Right.
She spoke as an equal to him. And that's something that's very unique for a woman at that age in that particular circumstance.
Right.
That's unique.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that her and David have in common. And I think that's what we see reflected in the restaurant scene.
Okay.
So I think what we're seeing is, no, Gloria, she will always have a voice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And David will always have a voice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes the voice gets you in trouble. Sometimes it doesn't. Even when you're not speaking,
Right.
the voice continues.
Definitely.
That's right.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
And speaking on that
Yes.
relationship she had with the grown man, which was David's dad, we saw a glimpse of something that foreshadowed that in her childhood, somebody, I don't know if it was David's dad or if it was another older man, but in the
On the bus.
On the bus.
Right.
yeah, she saw herself crying, and it was a man whose face we couldn't
Yeah.
see.
Can you
course.
clarify that? Because I was like, it looked like her, but it was a younger version
It
of her.
was
And it was
definitely
a,
her.
It was her.
but a
So
different
for this
man.
episode, exactly. So you caught that, girl.
I did.
Yes, and a lot of people caught that, and I'm like, yes. So in this episode, she sees herself as she sees her younger self, and then you also kind of like get a glimpse into what is still haunting her.
Okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like what haunts us, like that. Oh man, that is really powerful.
And you know what it is? It's those long bus rides. You know, when you're on the bus, you
Yes.
have time to think because you're not driving, so you don't have to focus on traffic. But when you're just able to ride, you have an opportunity to think. And here it is. She's had this long day. She's been fired. She goes to the pharmacy. And so all these things are probably running through her head. So
She had a lot of triggers that day.
Right.
Exactly.
So-
So
Yes,
many.
and
Yeah.
David has the same thing.
And
As
yes.
you can
Yep.
see in the both episodes when he's on the bus,
Yep.
yes.
his mind goes there.
Okay.
The voice is not quieted. So going back to your question, it is definitely influenced for sure, because one of the reasons why I fell in love with the script, one of the many reasons, is because I saw that. I was like, okay, this sermon is going to encourage Black men with each other and with their children to have conversations that have too long been delayed.
Yes.
Unfortunately, all of us, Black people in general, the command of our voice is the one thing that has carried us through all these centuries. What I feel and what I've discovered is that one voice that we have that has been lost is with each other.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think that we've become almost afraid of each other. We've lost our ability to respectfully connect and teach and say like, hey, especially between men. We've gotten so distant from each other. And we don't have the courage to stand in our shoes and say, that's not right.
Yeah.
You could hit me, you could shoot me, but that's not right.
Yeah.
And because of that, I feel like we've gone into all of these fractions of like what's most important to Black culture. And I think this show will help us kind of come back to what's most important. What's most important.
And like you said, bring issues to light that we are not discussing all the time.
Our relationship to each other is all we have.
Definitely, definitely.
And also transgenerational trauma, which is like
I know that is a huge issue.
Thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we see between Gloria and David both.
Yeah, we see like their generational curses.
Yes.
And what was interesting to me was to see, I feel like the Gloria that was like outspoken and friendly and charming, that was like David.
When he gets in, when he goes to the school.
When he's at school.
When he puts on that smile.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And then the one that can get angry and want to pick up a knife and shank her boss, that's like JG. You know what I'm saying? Can cause getting in trouble. And, so we saw how they're influenced by their mom's character. Josh, what do you think about Gloria at work?
Oh, I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm just taking all in this information.
Okay.
But I want to parallel something the way I was raised. My dad, everyone knows, is a pastor, and he was ex-military. He was in the Army, and my mother was an educator. And something that they taught us was that, and I said this last week, that we were better than anybody we've ever met. It didn't matter if they were white, Asian, Black, we're the best thing walking. And so what it caused us to do was to go to a point where we could prove it to ourselves by accomplishments, getting all A's, being number one in the class, being the smartest kid in the school. When I look at Gloria, I see that Gloria had the potential to be that smartest person with the fact that she stood up to her professor. She had a voice that was so powerful. She wasn't afraid to speak to him. She wasn't afraid to address him in front of his wife. And she looked at his wife with the look like, you know that your husband did this.
Right.
Don't act like I'm crazy. And we see that translate now into her adulthood. And because of circumstances, she's working in a diner, but that doesn't mean she's less important than she would have been.
Not at all. She said she goes to the library. She was prepared to speak about that managerial positions very eloquently about the workforce and how, her interaction with the guests was helpful to the business as a whole. So we hear that intelligent woman. Just because she works at a diner doesn't mean she's lost her voice or her intelligence.
No,
exactly.
And I just want to point out, and I'm sure he's okay with it, but Terrell did tell us that his mother used to read Stephen King to them.
Really?
That is a real specific. That is very, I think, so
and
sweet.
now Stephen King is scary. Like when she pulled out that
but like
but
it's
But
not
he's
scarier
a brilliant writer.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
like,
he's such a good writer.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. It's like when you read Stephen King, like if his book on writing is just so amazing, and like all of the multi-layered characters. I actually read it when I was young too.
Did you? See, I've always been scared of that
how
clown.
old were you?
I was 10.
Wow.
Like I literally
And could you understand the premise of it?
I did. I
Okay,
started
okay.
reading at a very young age.
Okay.
It's the same similar thing. Actually, my dad wasn't a pastor, but like military, and my mom's an educator.
Okay, yeah. So
So it's just like these are the things that are
Yeah.
important. But I will say this about the communication and like how we've lost our. I remember this is what Sky said, like when he was like, do you see how many black faces do you see? Do you see 2 black faces or 1? And it's like, well, we're put in this position where it's like, well, it is separate.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like survival in this part, you know, and it's like if sometimes people leave and it's like, I don't want to know about that anymore.
Right.
You know, and I know that that was my experience. I was at PG County and everything was like all black. And I had my own issues with like queer culture and that.
Right.
But, like, but then going to liberal arts and then being like, oh, I am black. You know what I mean? Like I am the only person that looks like me in this area. And I'm like, what is this?
Yes.
And it was just a different experience. But I also realized that I kind of just put it to the side and pretended like none of that existed,
Right.
you know, and then had to come to terms with my own, internalized racism,
Right.
and all that stuff, and have to be honest. And those conversations are very hard to deal with.
Speaking, you mentioned queer culture. What do you? First of all, I was in our research. We see your character's name two ways. We see
Yes.
Miss Elijah and we see Mix Elijah. What's the correct
Do mix,
mix? Okay. And tell us why.
because it allows for it to just be open-ended.
Okay.
The gender queer, gender fluidity, so that there are no mistakes that Mix Elijah is a gender queer, like man, woman,
Okay.
and goes by all the pronouns.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
very similar to
Can
me.
I ask you something?
Yeah.
Do you know Miss Sophia from V103 Atlanta?
Oh my goodness, no. Wait,
Okay,
who is that?
Well, Miss Sophia was a character on V103 with Ryan Cameron and Wanda
Okay.
Smith, and they were like, they were the money. Okay, they lived next door to Steve Harvey and all these people. But Miss Sophia was a character that was similar to Miss
Yes,
Elijah.
I do. Sorry. Yes, I do.
And so
I
I
know
just-
that. I immediately thought of the color purple.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, yes, we all know her.
No,
Where is he going with this?
Yeah, but it was cool. Like when I saw that that
Yes.
character, for me it reminded me of listening to Miss Sophia on the radio and how how he portrayed the character of Miss Sophia.
Yes.
The news and gossip and everything.
Yeah.
And of course you have way more sass.
Well, here's the thing. I truly, I don't know. There are. We're about to take the first, like, for example, trans, which is not trans, but genderqueer. But I just say that it's kind of important to talk about because it's going to the Supreme Court, right? Like this, if this happens and if they win, it'll be the first like civil rights case taken to the Supreme Court dealing with trans issues and
Right.
trans civil rights. Can
Right.
you be fired for being, so but people, if you do the research and history, it's like, this is not new.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when we talk about this like separation, I think about like, there's that video that came out of like the HBO, like the talk where the guy's talking to Kevin Hart about like, look, like when you talk about being gay, like it's nothing. Or like, when I hear things like if Dave Chappelle is like, trans issues, I can't deal with that because like
Right.
Black people have like, we're just now starting to deal with these issues. So
Right.
it's hard to like introduce the other. And it's like, well, babe, I hate to tell you this, but like the Black trans women that I know are the ones who are out there in the forefront, like fighting for our civil rights today.
Exactly.
And like their blood, sweat, and tears.
And
I'm sorry.
That leads me to ask you, what do you want viewers to learn from your character?
The
And
one
then-
thing that I want everyone to learn from all of these characters that is, first of all, it being an unapologetically Black show is that we just get to also be multi-dimensional.
Yes.
That is the whole point. We get to be infallible. We get to make mistakes. We don't have to be perfect. Like, we are human.
Yeah.
And we are a part of this nation. And I think that it's important to show that there are different aspects. That's what's great about, I think, story in general. There's always like some sort of conflict, and the way that Terrell writes is he makes sure that people can see themselves truly and not in a way that is, we're going to just put this down and sketch. We're going to sketch what
Right.
we think the idea of Black or what queer is.
Yeah. Isaiah, what would you want people to learn from your character?
Well, yes. But I was also gonna say that at least from what I've noticed thus far, is that this show is speaking to many communities.
Yes.
Although this show is definitely 100% unapologetically black,
Yeah.
there are many poor white communities who are also identifying with these characters
definitely.
and with this community.
Yes.
And they're communicating with me about that. And I think that that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because you have two communities here who have been forgotten about. And unfortunately, in this country, I believe that, you know, it has become a normative to hate on those who are poor and or uneducated.
Right.
Both.
Yeah.
That's
We
true.
definitely have this received elitism that is not a reflection of our actual, percentage of academic accomplishments as it relates to the rest of the
Right.
world, because we're in the DC range.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
definitely.
uneducated is not tantamount to
Yeah.
stupidity.
Exactly.
It just means that you don't have a
Yes.
documentation that states that you sat there for 4 years or however long. So, you know,
Yes.
my mother was a
Yes.
teacher. So
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
And still,
Yeah.
we just have created so many isms against being poor.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, the industry that we're in,
Yeah.
they support those ideas.
And that's the beauty of this episode, because we see so many dimensions from Gloria. Getting back to the episode a little bit, I just want to talk about Gloria at home. After this long day, you know, she comes home and little JG done burned the sheets.
Oh, Lord.
Okay,
Pissy
them-
sheets.
Burn these pissy sheets, and then this is when she finds out that he's been peeing the bed.
Yeah.
But she also, in spite of having this bad day, brings them toys
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
show, like, you know, how important her
Resiliency.
children, how important her children are to her.
Yeah.
Now, when she was at home, one of the things I wanted to ask, we saw this conversation between Rainan and David. Now,
Oh,
Mix
Lord.
Elijah, did you call the popo on Rainan last week? That's what
I'm not saying
Oh, see?
anything.
Wow.
But the thing is that it's like you think you know, and like this is the beauty of it is
You
that
have no
like
idea.
I love people being like underestimating people based on like what they see
Okay.
Right.
and their perception,
Okay.
and that's always been one of my superpowers because
Okay.
I'm like. I don't know.
Okay.
I do want to talk about this because in the episode we saw you, Mix Elijah, in a lot of instances where you were saving people. Like, so you were saving Star, you were saving Gloria. And I know that our last episode when we talked to Lucian, he was saying, look at it from the biblical aspect. And
Yeah.
Elijah was basically like saving individuals from the
Yeah.
corrupt world. So is that like something that you see, I guess you can or cannot say saving, but is that a personality that you also have like personally with this character?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that is that's the number one. And I said this, you know, for me, there is the giving back and helping others, and that is a part of the queer culture. These houses, you know, like you have to make your own family sometimes,
Right.
and that's real. Like you have to make sure that there is a community, because when you're lacking community, that's when the lone wolf does not survive. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so helping other people and trying to like and not thinking about like yourself all the time. It actually, you help yourself when you help others,
I
and
love
you
that.
give back.
Yeah.
You know, that's why people have like, this is the drag mother, like
Yes.
my mother taught me everything that I know, and then I give that back.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how you survive, and that's how you carry on.
Speaking, and so you're kind of acting like a mother and a teacher. And Sky, you're also a teacher
Yes.
to David. Can you speak to the lessons that your character is trying to instill in David that we'll see throughout the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, Sky is someone who is a victim and the product of a very long kind of unproductive cycle. It doesn't mean that he is unproductive, and it doesn't mean that he recognizes the difference.
Okay.
And I think he's trying to teach David that there's a difference, and you're already on a different path, so why not continue down that path and let the people who tell you that's whack, it's not cool to be smart,
Don't listen to
you
them.
think you better than us, and be like that. None of that has anything to do with you.
Right. It's
What
hard
do you
for
want
David
to do?
though, because
Okay.
David is so young. Like, so you know, I was raised in that environment, so I knew how to put myself in front. Without, I didn't look down on anybody.
Absolutely.
But David is at a point where if you're not down for your homies, then you're not down with the cause, bruh.
That's right.
And that's hard.
And the
Yeah.
thing that
Yeah.
makes David's situation complex, which I completely, relate to, especially, being a teacher, is that what makes his situation complex is that he's actually supporting his family.
Yeah.
So that goes beyond social graces of cool or not cool.
Okay.
Right.
He's like, no, we need this money
Yeah.
because I don't trust my support system, and I have to look after them.
Okay.
Yes.
And family is more important to him than anything, and I think that's the first lesson that Sky taught him.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
That's the first thing he
But I
does.
think what he's trying to tell him
Yeah.
is the way that you can support your family is by getting out of here.
Okay.
Yes.
You don't
and
have
doing
to stay
better,
here to do it.
but you can't. It's hard for David to do that, but still see his family falling by the wayside in
Right.
the moment.
Yes.
So he's trying to keep all these balls in the air, and that's why audiences are gravitating towards his story. Towards this story.
Can I ask this
Yeah.
question real quick? I want to ask you this, Isaiah. And as it references to Sky, my dad is a good example. My dad grew up poor, like David. His mom died when he was 2 years old. He was raised by his father, who was an alcoholic by the time my dad was about 8. So up until the time my dad was 8 years old, till about 4 years ago, he worked. And so when he made it out of the hood, I grew up in the upper middle class area. Like if I were here in LA, I would have lived in like Woodland Hills or something. How do you explain a kid in that situation where they're making it out, but their family is pushing them away for making it out? Like, how do you explain that? Because it's the antithesis of what David is going through. Like, his mom and brother are supporting him, but his friends seem to be like what my dad's family was. Like, you're making it out? Okay, well, then we don't want to deal with you. Like, how does he deal with that type of situation?
That is exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Okay.
that multifaceted, the things that you have to deal with as a human,
Okay.
your story being that you have to survive, right?
Right.
You have to make it out, but also you love your family.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's nothing you can do because they have their own story.
Okay.
And does it correlate and does it work together?
Okay.
You know, and that is the exact same thing that happened with my family. And
Okay.
like, I mean, they are like, we're poor, right? And I grew up in middle class, not upper
Right.
middle class. I probably would have lived in like, not even Studio City,
Okay.
but not even Studio City. But like the reality is that you have to sometimes make these hard choices, and you know what? Sometimes it's okay and it works
Okay.
out, and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes there just isn't an easy answer.
Okay.
You know, and that is what makes us, I think, interesting. And
Okay.
you know, when we're dealing with this, and I know you asked him, and I just took
No, that's okay.
No,
It's
It's
not
really
about
just
that.
saying, like,
Well, the thing
Yeah.
about it is, I think what makes it so complex, and this is why even David and Sky fight,
Yes.
is because David, in order for David to move through the scholastic system, he has to keep a roof over his head.
Right.
And
You ain't gonna be in school homeless.
No.
Right.
true. And I feel like your message is misleading because it's kind of like do as I say and not as I do.
Right.
Because you, as an individual, even though you learned your lesson and now you're trying to teach him, but it's also like me viewing you and how you lived. It's like, why can't I do the same thing? So I feel like he is between the two. Ooh.
I mean,
The
it's-
only thing about that is that, I mean, you guys know this now, so I can say it, is that Sky was very much still in process.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
He was still in process when his journey ended.
Okay.
Okay.
Like he was growing as an individual.
We can't say too much.
Okay.
He was still in process.
Okay.
And
okay.
I honestly, I'm not trying to be too literal, but
Yeah.
as an actor, you find things to justify. That's one of the things that I justified as to why he's even here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he was still in process. So it's like when a soul is trapped.
So he has
And
unfinished business and he's still
his
working.
spirit is still moving forward.
Okay.
Right. Yeah,
That just got deep.
Well, think about like how we are. Like
Yeah.
how many of us have had a grandparent, an auntie, a parent pass away, and there are things that my mom passed away 2 years ago. There are things that she told me before she passed away that's pushing me now.
Yeah.
My dad is still with with me, and I don't talk to him on a daily basis. He's in Atlanta, but there are things that he told me when I was 10, 11, 12 that even if he passed away, is still pushing me. So that spirit continues to come on. It continues to help you grow.
Our ancestors are still in process.
That's right.
100%.
The ancestors that jumped off of the ship because they thought
they knew.
I'd rather die free than live a slave. They are still in process.
Yes.
And they have brought us thus far.
Yeah, I think we also see that Gloria is still in process and with her recovery and how she keeps on trying.
She is.
And no matter how hard she tries, there are circumstances that just set her back, and she's trying to just recover from that.
That scene at home, that is such an important scene because you basically have two people, because she tells David, like, I got fired, right?
Yes.
And then he's like, the weight of the world is on my shoulder. And when he says that, I love you, Mom, and that whole idea of like, I have to be an adult now, I understand that so much. You know what I mean? Like, my dad went off to the Saudi Arabia War, Desert Storm.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was alone with my mom. She gave birth when, and it was just us two. And it's like, we're watching news of like war. And I'm like, I'm a man, you know, like I have to take care. And like, and the thing is that you had her, and then she immediately was like, but I'm going to take care of it.
Yeah.
Because she also realized, that's my son, and I am the adult.
Yeah.
But I'm trying, and he's like, what is he going to do? Oh my goodness, it's so much.
It's so difficult. Now, guys, we have kind of jumped all over the place, and we've run out of time. Yes, we've run out of time. But we love the fact, you know, you guys just have to watch the episode. We'll definitely do more of a recap. But you saw what's going on. Let us know in the comments what you thought. Please. And we loved hearing from you you guys specifically, because we don't get this opportunity all the time.
Can we come back?
Yes. We need you to.
I don't need to talk. I'll sit over there.
No, you have to talk. You have to talk.
We have you.
So as we wrap up, I'm gonna. Where can everybody find you, Travis, on social media?
All my social media handles are the same. They're at Travesties,
which I love.
I love it too. I'm like, how do they not? Nobody thought of this. And yes, I'm in this show, and then I'm also in a show that comes out on YouTube September 25th, the second season of Liza on Demand.
Hilarious.
Yes.
And then Isaiah, where can they find you?
You can find me also the same at Isaiah's Lament.
That's deep.
Do you know it?
That's it. At Isaiah's Lament.
Okay, perfect. Zakiyyah, where can they find you?
Hello, guys. You can find me on Instagram at Zakiyyah W_. And then you guys can find me on Bring the Funny on Tuesdays.
I am Joshua Wright. You can find me all things social media at Cleverly Clad. I would like to point out Paragon Film Music says that, first of all, thank you for the platform to explore these amazing characters. Also, we trended on Twitter, so make sure all you viewers who look at us tonight, hashtag David Makes Man, all of the viewers.
We are trending. Yes. Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. My name is Tsahai. You can find me at Say Hi Tsahai. Please come back. Please thank you to our special guests, Travis and Elijah. Isaiah. I'm sorry. I apologize.
We're the same.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time, and catch us next week right here on the David Makes Man After Show.
All right.
Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.